Hello and welcome to another episode. This episode is a little bit unusual in terms of the topic we're going to talk about, but I think it's particularly important. So I have invited Jason Lydford, who is one of the top cybersecurity experts in the UK, to come and share his message with you. He was recently speaking at the annual conference that we had for Optical Success Academy. And I do think his message is really important. It's relatively quick and straightforward, but it's something that I believe all owners of independent businesses should be aware of and take care of. So essentially, it's talking about what the real risks are with cybersecurity today for our size of business as a successful independent business. Some of the practical tips, things that you can do that doesn't cost anything, that will vastly increase your protection, as well as just a bit of a reality check on, how these things happen, how to prevent them, practical steps, and how to get proper cover. Cybersecurity protection as well for our size of business is, we have it at Jones & Co. and I think we pay something like £20 per device. So it's not a hugely expensive thing to take care of for your business. But the downside, if you are breached and have a cyber attack, then it can be pretty catastrophic. So again, I don't normally like to talk about these things, but we put so much effort and energy into building our businesses, and to have it all be at risk for, some of these little vulnerabilities that exist in the world that we're in today. I just think it's good ownership and stewardship to be aware of the basics and to just be confident that you've taken care of it. So Jason, I thought, was the best man to give you the overview and give you a bit of guidance and instruction. So I hope you enjoy the episode. There's a little bit of psychology in here as well, in terms of how, our mindset and optimism versus, taking care of risks and handling those details. So success always leaves clues. And I think in general, it's important to think about how do you handle risks in your business, and just hoping that stuff isn't going to happen isn't probably the best way forward. So you can extrapolate what we talk about here with Jason and apply it to any other risks that you think you have in your business, and just be smart and intelligent about addressing risks while staying positive and focusing on growing your business. So without further ado, let's meet Jason. So as business owners, we spend a lot of time thinking about growth and marketing and staff and just improving the business. And I think one thing that we often overlook is, how vulnerable is our business behind the scenes. So that's why I wanted to bring Jason on to speak to us all today, because he's showing me how businesses our size, so successful, profitable, independent businesses, can actually be a primary target for a lot of cyber risk and stuff like that out there. So I wanted Jason to come and share that message. So first of all, Jason, thank you very much for joining us.
No, you're very welcome. Thank you very much for the invite.
Yeah, pleasure. So for context, we brought Jason to the annual conference, the Optical Success Academy annual conference in Liverpool last week. And you delivered, a part of this message there on stage. We've got a little bit more time to go in depth today as well. But I just thought it's a very important message to share with successful independent practice owners. So that was why I thought it was very timely, and why I wanted to kind of do this episode of the podcast. So we'll dive straight in. Jason, I think a lot of people listening, as soon as we mention cybersecurity, they'll probably think, well, that's something that happens to banks and big corporations, the companies that are in the headlines. So let's start there. Are there any, for independent businesses like us, independent optometrists and optical practices, are we actually targets?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, without a doubt, it's arguable that you're a bigger target than most large corporations. Most large businesses, you hear about the attacks purely because they get the media coverage. And obviously they are a bigger prize if there is an attack that's successful. However, what you've got to think of is most independent businesses, most small businesses, they think we're too small. No one knows who we are. Why on earth would they target us? What would they need from us? It's not an image of dark rooms, guys in hoodies, targeting individual people, to try and get money or whatever it is. Cyber warfare is totally different now. It's bots, it's machines, it's PCs doing this. They're not targeting anyone specifically. They are just looking for the weaknesses that they can find. And unfortunately, a lot of the small businesses, and let's be frank here, they don't care if you're an optician, if you're an accountant, a manufacturer, a solicitor, it doesn't matter. If they can get in, they will. And it's because a lot of the small businesses have that cyber mentality, and I can understand why. It means they're not secure enough, which just makes them a much more vulnerable target.
So would you say then that independent practice owners tend to be a little bit weaker, a little bit less security? Plus, what is it that makes us attractive? Like, why? Yeah, is there anything about our types of businesses that would make us attractive?
Yeah, I mean, not the market itself, not just, opticians. I mean, it could be anything small. And when we say small businesses here, I'm not talking about, working from home. I'm talking about anyone under, say, 100 staff. And they classify that as being small. You'll find that as a company grows and gets bigger, because it becomes more of a media target, if you like, companies of this size invest a lot of money in their cybersecurity. They'll employ people like us, or they'll have their own team, or whatever it is they're doing. You will find with the smaller businesses, and again, across the industry, they don't put any investment into cyber for all the reasons that they think, well, it's never going to happen to them. Unfortunately, it's one of those business expenses that you've got to do rather than you want to do. So it does seem to, take a bit of a back seat. Cybersecurity does not have to be expensive, and that is another thing which you'll talk about later, I'm sure. But people think that cyber is going to cost them, a fortune to get this in place. It doesn't. The bigger the company, then of course they're going to spend a lot of money on equipment and kit. But with a small businesses, there are only a few things you've got to do to just make sure the bits are safe. The problem is working within the medical industry in general, or your practice, the things that are looking of interest for a cyber criminal is, the thousands of patient records that you've got, your payment information, the staff records you've got, all your supplier accounts. They can get access to any of that. They can then go through the supply chain, and suddenly your practice is not the one they're targeting. They're just using you to get their foot in the door. So, I mean, as I said, it's not an expensive thing, but you really are quite an easy route in.
Yeah, so I think what I'm trying to get across today as well for people listening is there's a psychology, first of all, and this is coming from me understanding myself, where the things I would tend to ignore and tend to put off are the things like this, where it's a little bit boring and a little bit, they're like, do I really need to do anything? And, because we're so busy as independent practice owners, I think there is a tendency, if we don't always take care of all the details that we need to protect the business. But the other things that kind of does get my attention, last week, as an example, had nothing to do with cyber, but our practice management software went offline in the morning, and it almost is at the level your business can't function until that thing is back. So that wasn't anything to do with a cyber problem, but it always reminds me of where we are vulnerable. Can you kind of describe what does for a business like ours, what does an attack actually look like for a small independent business? Sure.
Well, as I said earlier, a lot of people still feel that the cyber attack is the teenager in the hood. That's all thanks to Hollywood. It's not like that at all. Usually a cyber attack is really boring and you don't even notice it. It often starts with an email that's got a fake link. It's called phishing. I don't want to use all the techie terms in here, but you're probably familiar with that term. Effectively, it's asking you, it's an email posing as either someone else or somebody in your practice or something it isn't, and is asking you to click or reply with some details. That could be a fake supplier invoice. It could be a fake login for some passwords that you've got. It could be a fake courier delivery notification saying that, the parcel that you want this morning, there's a problem, give us a call or give us a link, I should say. Somebody clicks it, someone enters a password, and suddenly that attacker, which will be a bot with access to thousands and thousands and thousands of other bots, will all have access to your network. Unfortunately, everything that they do look completely normal until you find out that it isn't. So it's a simple thing. It's a simple thing to look out for. What I would say, and I'm sure I'm going to say this a lot, during our call today is visibility. You really have got to see what's going on and just be cautious of what you're looking at. Don't click the link unless you absolutely know who it's from and where it's going.
And that's something I picked up from our conversations as well before is there can be a delay as well, where if there is an attack, it doesn't mean something's going to happen today or tomorrow or next week. It can be there in the background monitoring and so sometimes you might have a problem that you're not even aware of till
sure
further down.
The evolution of a cyber attack, and please, everyone listening and watching this call, I'm not here to scare you. This is really just to put some visibility so you actually know what's going on here and arm you with some answers of what's going on. What used to happen back in the day is you would get some form of cyber attack. And generally speaking, it would happen straight away. You'd get a red square or a yellow square come up on your PC saying, "We've got your PC, it's locked. Pay us, whatever it is, £100 in Bitcoins and send it to this place, or we're not going to give you your data back." The cyber criminals were very aware that us cyber experts could get around that by using a backup. Simply just cut them off, put the backup back on. So they evolved to getting your backup first and then doing that. So, we were then going to be a little bit stuck. What they do now is they come into your system at some point and they sit there and they wait and they watch everything you're doing. Now, I don't mean physically on the screen. They're all sitting there watching. Just the bots that are controlling the cyber attack will just copy everything you've got and just watch what's going on. They'll be looking for keywords, buzzwords, passwords, that kind of stuff. And then eventually they'll do something. And of course, they could have been there months and months and months. What have they been watching? What are they looking? What do they know about you? It's akin to somebody breaking into your house and hiding in the loft. And when you come in from work, they stay up in the loft. You don't know they're there. You go about your night, whatever. When you go back to work, they come back down again and go through all your stuff again and then go back up in the loft. And they could be doing that months and months and months and months and months. You don't know what they've got and what they're doing. That's the fear of the cybersecurity, because you just don't know what they're watching. Once they see something that they can either sell or they can use or will give them credibility as a group or some big supplier chain contract or something like that, or contacts, I should say, that's when you'll notice that they'll do something, and that's where they'll make the move.
Yeah. And so with this as well, I think so just so you know, guys, so there's a couple of quick wins and things that you can do. I think for me, the broad overview of this that we're trying to paint this picture here is you kind of need to be motivated enough to take this seriously in your business. And actually the solutions are quite simple as well. But if you don't do those solutions, you're quite exposed. So I think from my own perspective as an independent practice owner, I've got a lot of things fighting for my attention. So for something to get my attention, I need to kind of understand why this matters. So we'll get into that. But there's two things. I think the stories that make it real for me as well, that remind me, are real people and people that we know. So the first one I've heard of, and this is going back maybe 10 years ago, a person that I know is my brother. He runs a business buying and selling reasonably large powerboats and all over the UK and Ireland. So he was doing a transaction where he was purchasing a boat, driving over to England to pick it up, and he was making the payment the day before. And he got a fake email from the company he was buying the boat from saying, "Oh, actually, it'd be better if you paid into this bank account." And everything looked perfectly legit. I think when he went back afterwards, it was like one little letter had been changed in the email address. So I can't remember, but it was £10,000 or £20,000 that he paid that he never got back. So that always stuck in my mind. And then coincidentally, while you were on stage at our conference in Liverpool, there's a mutual friend of ours that we both know who had a similar thing happen. Can you just quickly describe the situation with Carol from her perspective as
Yeah, sure. You're right. I was just about to go on stage with you guys. I think I was due on at 1:30 or no, I can't remember what time it was. It was a bit earlier, but an email popped up and a WhatsApp popped up from Carol saying, "Could you give me a quick call?" She was very calm, I've got to say, which was quite surprising. The email or the WhatsApp said, "Could you give me a quick call? We've just had £10,000 taken fraudulently from an invoice that was sent to us from an email, and we don't know what to do. And we think our passwords have been compromised as well." So I went back to her and said, "Yeah, don't worry, we'll get the team onto it." Our team went and did their forensics and their cybersecurity stuff. And basically, at the end of the day, what it was, and it was very similar to what you just said, Conor, one of her finance team had a fake email allegedly from her, which of course it wasn't, saying that they needed to spend this money. Here's our invoice details. The only difference was, and again, very similar, they put an additional L in the word Carol. So when you quit looking at it, and what the email was very urgent. It's written in her voice. It's written the way she talks, and it says, "Come on, we've got to get this done quickly. I really need to do it." Afterwards, when questioned, the team member said that it sounded like her, and she just thought she was getting some work done at home because it was for some building. Anyway, it turns out that it wasn't right. The team had gone in. Within, 40 minutes, we'd stopped it. We've resolved it. We've gone back to the bank. We've told them with our forensic information, and we could show them. She had 5,200 emails sent from that fake account to her client list. But because we could show her which 5,200 they were, she could then go back legitimately and say, hang on a minute, these aren't right. But what was even more impressive was the bank froze the money and have returned it to her pretty much by the end of the day. So
that's very good. And if you asked me, I would have thought, well, okay, she's not getting that back. And then, like you said, there's the damage from all those fake emails going out to her clients.
Yeah, it is. And the other thing, Carol's in a different industry to you guys, so it's not quite the same, but the reputational and the trust damage, if you've got to turn around and say to a lot of patients, all your information's gone out, are they going to come back and use you again? It's the reputation. That's the biggest hit.
Yeah.
It's not always money. People always think cyber criminals are just after money. Not necessarily.
Yeah. So anyway, I think stories like that where, and if whether it's, somebody or somebody, even yourself, I think it's more common than we think. And it's for me, it's like, use those examples. Don't wait until it becomes a problem for yourself.
Absolutely.
So a lot of people think, a lot of us running our own business will have some kind of relationship with an IT company. And a lot of people will assume that if I've got an IT company, I assume whatever we're getting from them covers me. Can you just explain, is that normally the case, and how do you find that out?
It's the biggest conception or misconception, I say, that we see. Having support and IT support doesn't mean to say you've got security at all. IT support obviously will keep things running, but cybersecurity protects the business. They are, whilst related, they're not the same thing. You can, you do. If you've got an IT company that know a little bit about cyber, that's fine. But what you'll find mostly, and also the IT companies are very good at what they do, but what you'll find generally is the guy that fixes your printer is the guy that's trying to keep the bad guys out as well. Cybersecurity is a specialist thing. You've got to make sure that you've got the right people and the right team. Most IT companies will say they do a degree of cyber. And generally speaking, if it's more than you do, you'll think that's enough. But it really isn't. Most companies will put some antivirus and all that kind of stuff on your machine, which 20 years ago was fine. This stuff changes daily. You need a company that's on top. So the difference between it is to ask, can cyber criminals get in? How do they get in? And can you show me? Can you just show me what you do? How do you stop them? That's probably the best question to ask an IT company, because a lot of us do both, but you've just got to make sure that the ones that say they do cyber absolutely do.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk a bit about common mistakes that business owners make that you see. And to set the scene, I'll go first, be vulnerable a little bit. I only tell you this because we have changed our ways, Jason.
Okay. I hope so.
My wife, Catherine, is from Scotland. She's very excited about Scotland being in the World Cup at the moment. And I've told, everybody that listens to me, I've literally told thousands of people what her password is to everything, but she's since changed it. But her password to everything in her life was Braveheart, the Mel Gibson film, how patriotic she was. So she just had the same password for everything, everywhere. So I'm assuming that's not a good thing to do. But share some examples. What are the common mistakes, simple mistakes that people make that are easily avoidable?
Well, just like that, funnily, most of them are not technical. They are behavioural based. Having a Scottish lady with a password called Braveheart. I mean, who'd have guessed? Who'd have thought that? Using the same passwords over and over again, having really easy passwords to guess. Cat's name, dog's name, whatever. What happens with these cyber criminals? And again, you must remember, and I keep saying it, but this isn't somebody trying to track you. This is just a bot that's found a vulnerability in you and then needs to find everything about you because that could expose more vulnerabilities. So the chances if they found your LinkedIn profile, they might see that you've put a photo up of you running a marathon or something, and your dogs come to say hello at the end, and you've got a little note in there saying, here comes Brucey. Instantly, Brucey could be a password. So then they'll start using your logins and the password Brucey, and then they'll change the password Brucey. They'll put capital B, lower B. They'll put an I instead of or one instead of an I. They'll put a Brucey 01, Brucey 02, and it just goes on and on until they can find out. Once they've cracked that, they could then probably find you on social media. And more likely than not, you've got the same password because nobody likes changing passwords, do they? If I said to you right now, come up with a new password right now, you could use anything on the planet, but you'd struggle. Password managers are the key. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, so reusing passwords, sharing passwords obviously is a no-no because if you share your password with me, right? This is a bad example because I'm a trustworthy kind of guy. If you shared your password with me, you've got no idea that I wouldn't show that to someone else.
What about with staff? Because that's tricky sometimes where, I might have an account or a subscription for something that has my login, but we don't have a subscription for everybody on the team. So if I need someone on my team to use something on my behalf or get access to something.
Yep. You can do that. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but it depends on what it's for.
Yeah.
If that's for a subscription to a magazine, okay, because it's only coming to one place, it's only coming to one email. And when they log in as you, that subscription is you, if you know what I mean. So you're not giving your password and subscription details to another team member who then logs in themselves and then uses their passwords. It's all coming through you. But things like, banks, no, if you want to share your team, you've got to have individuals for things like that, because not only do you need to be able to audit it, but you need the accountability of, well, who went where, who did what. Again, a lot of cyber is common sense, and it's taking a breath and a step back and just saying, hang on, what have we done? What haven't we done? Things like using old unsupported devices just because you've had the machine for ages and it works. Why not? Well, I don't need to update it. It works anyway. From a cyber point of view, that's a goldmine because there's no security on that at all. They can just come back in and get whatever they need. I go on about it a lot, multi-factor authentication, just to explain what that is for those of you who may not know. And I'll use a bank. I mean, there's lots of different examples, but we'll just use a bank. If you want to log on to your bank, generally speaking, from a PC, the bank will text you, or you'll need to use an authenticator to verify the number and verify it's you. So multi-factor or two-factor authentication is what it's called. Just gives you another opportunity to identify yourself. Now, the text way of doing it, where they send you a text message, they've found vulnerabilities in that fairly recently. So a lot of companies like Microsoft are stopping sending the text messages because the phone can be spoofed, which means someone can take your account from your phone without you knowing. Therefore, they get all your texts. So what they started to do now is use them through WhatsApp. You may have experienced it, just because WhatsApp is encrypted end to end as we're talking now. So cat and mouse, it's always changing. As we say, we find something wrong, they make something worse, we fix it, they make it worse again. But the main things to do, things like backups. I mentioned this at the conference. If you've got backups at work, check them. There's no point checking them when you need them, because if they don't work, that's it. Make sure that you've checked them, you've restored it. I don't mean restore the whole thing, just grab a file or two, random, just see if it will come back, that's fine. And some staff training, some real easy staff training, how to identify a phishing email, what to look for when, a password comes in or an invoice comes in and it's not fake, what to look for on an email address. What about how to scan the texts on your phones and ensure that they're correct? So those kind of things. The majority of the breaches are from them.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of practical things there, guys. And I think as well, like if you're doing staff training, I think if you can tell a story to your team, like the story about Carol or my brother or whoever, I think it makes it land a little bit more. So you've said multi-factor authentication, password manager. So I use on my Mac, I just use password manager. I assume they're pretty secure. Is that a good thing to do?
Yeah. So there's lots of different password managers.
Yeah.
Macs themselves are pretty secure. The biggest problem is the humans aren't. So we're the ones that click. If we click and let them in, doesn't matter how secure your machine is, you've allowed them. But off the bat, them trying to break in, they're pretty secure, as are iPhones, as you know, most machines are, to be honest. With the password manager, as long as the way the password manager works is you have one password to get into it, and then you save all of your rest of your passwords in an encrypted format. The app or the software does that for you, so you don't have to worry about it. But please ensure that the main first password is good enough, is long enough, is complicated enough, and you don't have it on a Post-it note on your monitor.
Yeah. So it's rocket science, this stuff, Jason.
Isn't it? Isn't it just? You think they'd give me a prize for all of this stuff? It's really, really obvious stuff. It really is.
So I think, and so again, if I was making a list, you've got them: multi-factor authentication, password manager, staff training, probably at a frequency that makes sense, where you're just reminding them to sort your backups and check them. What is it that you do? I know you have a tool or something, some way of getting an analysis of what a particular company's.
Yeah. So there's a number of ways for doing these things. The first thing we do is we'll come in and we'll give you we call it a cyber risk assessment. Basically all it is it's come in to look at your vulnerabilities. We're going to shine a torch in all the little ports and find out, well, where are the holes? What have you got covered? What haven't you? Is your email password terrible? Do you use, I'm just picking random things here, but do you use Microsoft 365? Are you the administrator of the account? And does everyone know what your password is? So we said backups, do they work? What vulnerabilities have you got? Updates on your machines? Do you have a firewall? Where's your security? This assessment is pretty quick. It takes about half an hour to do. You don't need to do anything. It runs in the background. And then it will give us a report, which is very, very simple. Traffic lights, literally. If it's green, you're good. If it's red, it's not. And if it's amber, we need to talk. And we'll look at you and we'll come to you and say, right, this is the vulnerabilities. This is what we can do to fix them. This is how we can stop them. And it really is as simple as that.
And is that, I know you kindly offered that at the conference. Is that something you're willing for us to share with the podcast notes?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We're doing it. We did it for no charge at the conference as a thank you for inviting us up there. Anyone on this podcast who reads this will hold that as well. So all you got to do, I'm sure you'll get the details at the end, but just drop us an email. Tell us.
They don't need to speak to you or anything.
No, they can just drop us an email and just say, or go to a link on the website. I'm sure Conor will put up at the end. Say that you heard us on the podcast, and we'll take it from there. But there's no charge for that at all. We want to make sure you're safe.
The initial overview is fairly. It's not very onerous. It's a survey. They fill in the information, and that gives them the lay of the land. Am I right in understanding that?
All we need from you in the first stages is who you are and where you are, so name, company, and email, so we can send you a certified link that will be, because we're always saying don't click the link, but we'll certify it so you know it is. You click the link and the scanner will do the rest. That's it. And it's non-intrusive and it doesn't leave anything on your machine. And once the scan's done, it deletes itself from your machine. It's not there. So it's not like there's something in the background. We don't want to create a new vulnerability for you when we're trying to stop them. So it's very private.
I appreciate that. And we'll share that link somewhere in the notes. So if you're listening and you want to find out for yourself, then you can start that process with Jason. So let's do a couple of quick fire questions as we kind of draw to a close. So yeah, just quick fire. What's the most expensive mistake you've ever seen a business make in terms of cybersecurity?
Wow. This happened not that long ago, actually. A couple of years ago, big civil engineering company. So this is one of the big boys. They were using an independent IT company. They got attacked. They came back to us and said, our IT company is struggling with the backup. Could you have a look? There wasn't one. There was no backup, and they didn't discover it until the attack happened. And they were ransomed for £300,000. They had no choice. Well, they said they wanted to pay it. We told them you cannot pay it, but there was no backup.
Yeah, and I remember that's another scary story. But I don't want to go into it in any depth here because I think the action is everybody just kind of take care of the few basics here. But if you pay the ransom, what then happens? Most cases,
nothing. You don't hear from them again, and you don't get them back. And what they do then is they then sell your information to someone else, saying they've just paid the ransom. So then you'll get an attack somewhere else saying, "Could you pay the ransom?" My advice, as of this podcast date, do not pay the ransom. Ever. I know right at the beginning you'll think, "Oh my God, I need this information. Where's it going?" Certainly, we have not. And I'm not saying this will be the case forever and ever, but we have not ever not been able to recover stuff.
Yeah,
always been able to do it. So don't pay the ransom.
And speak to the professionals, I would say, at that point. Let's see. Do you know of any businesses that have actually been shut down because of a cyber attack?
I do, unfortunately, and it's never straight away. The businesses generally, the statistics on this is that generally the business is shut down within 8 months of an attack.
Yeah.
If the attack is strong enough, and really does take your client lists. I mean, the thing is, we've all done it before. If something gets deleted or whatever, you can usually find your way around it. You can work around this, you can work around that. Problem with the cyber attack is if they take your clients and your clients find out that you were the one that gave them the details, and then your clients leave you, that reputational damage on its own will stop your practice or business from growing. And that's where it then becomes that you've got to shut your doors. It's never about the fact they took money. It's never about that.
I think it's mind-boggling, or I always find it mind-boggling as well. Like a couple of recent ones, Marks and Spencer's. I don't know the full details, but they were hacked and their online shop was closed for weeks. And was there something with Jaguar or Land Rover as well, where they weren't able to produce any cars for a period of months because of a cyber attack? And my initial thought is, how is that even possible? Can they not just crack on with what they need to do? So I think I failed to comprehend the vulnerabilities there.
Well, it was like what you were saying, your practice management software was down for a bit and you couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Well, what if that was down for 2 weeks?
Yeah.
There are bits and pieces you could do, but if you were the size of Jaguar, and you all rely on that one piece of software, these things can be colossal. The point is, because they don't happen they do happen every day. In fact, last year there was 600,000 UK businesses that were hit. But because they don't always make the news and because they don't always shut them down, people look away and think, well, it's nothing to do with us. That attitude's got to change, because it's never going to be as easy as it is now. It's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. So you've got to change that attitude. It's becoming, I'll tell you what is an important thing. Normally, I go into my clients and sit around boardroom tables and have IT discussions. Now we're having business continuity discussions because the IT is irrelevant. It's how do we keep the business going?
Yeah. Okay. Well, and I think as well, I think the value in knowing some of these stories and feeling the emotion of it is so it prompts you to act and just take care of it, because I think it's like you said, a lot of it is basics, taking care of basic common sense stuff from basic habits. And then the fix in terms of getting proper cyber protection, as you said, for our size of business, is very affordable and not expensive. So it's really just about taking care of the details.
Well, it is. I mean, we had an incident this morning. This is all part of our deal and what we do. One of our customers, we saw a login from America, from Miami. And I saw it pop up. And I thought, she's not in Miami. I spoke to her yesterday. So I said to the team, have a check. And we checked to see if she's in America. We rang the company. She wasn't in America. Somebody had got her credentials and logged in Miami. So we were able to block that and stop it within 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Just because, and that didn't matter whether I spoke to her or not. It's just the fact that she was in a place that we don't normally see her log in. Simple things. Once they're in, it's chasing them around.
So the message I wanted to kind of portray with this episode is, and not we've never done an episode like this. It's always about big, exciting, how to improve your business, how to get better as a leader, how to do marketing. But this is something that puts it all at risk. So thankfully, it's a quick fix. So I just wanted to kind of get that across to people, because I know how hard it is to work and build a practice and build an independent business and build a team. And to have that at risk or have it all be jeopardized by something like this, I think is too important to just hope and fingers crossed nothing's going to happen.
Okay.
So last question, and I think I don't know if there's something ironic about this, but I think a lot of successful practice owners and entrepreneurs that are kind of in our world and audience here, I think they become successful because they're optimistic people. They see the positives, they focus on growth, they see opportunities. But is there something about that mindset, that optimistic mindset, that makes us ignore some of the risks? What do you think on there?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, see, I'm a business owner myself. I fit into that same category, and I'm always looking, how do we grow? How do we win more customers? How do we improve? What can we do? What we don't think is, hang on, how do I protect all of this? I mean, of course, we protect things through insurances, and we protect things through, getting the right accountants, look after the money and all of those kind of things. But when it comes to tech and science and cyber, do we? I mean, it's ironic, really, that we are incredibly proactive about creating success and surprisingly passive about protecting it. The biggest lesson isn't necessarily cybersecurity. It's understanding that protecting what you've got requires the same attention as growing it did. We're all very positive people, at the end of the day. Business is hard enough, so you've got to be good to do it. But we all tend to focus on the positive, let's growth side rather than the, well, let's look after it until it breaks. We've had customers before, phrase that I hear all the time, I thought we were protected until we weren't, and it's that then prompts you into looking. But of course, the gate's open. It's been done. So yeah, I would certainly encourage everyone on the call to think about how to protect what you've got, as well as growing it more and more.
Cool. Well, I appreciate that you coming on to share the message. And
very welcome.
For me, I think just knowing that these things are taken care of in the right way allows, it just gives you further confidence to focus on the good stuff and the exciting stuff. But yeah, it's an important message to hear. So I really appreciate you joining us, Jason, and sharing that. We'll share the link in the show notes. If anybody wants to follow you, or are you on any social media or anywhere you would send them in particular? Yeah,
so I have it's good and bad. It's fortunate that I am the only Jason Lydford in the world, genuinely. So if you Google Jason Lydford, it is me. Right? That's the quickest way of finding it. Munio-IT is the company. If you want just some very plain, straight-talking cyber advice, you can look at my... I don't know if it's influencer. I don't know if that's what they call them. I think I'm too old for that. But if you do @Jason on Cyber, the @ symbol and Jason on Cyber, there's some videos there that I post a couple of times a week or so, 2 or 3 minutes each. But yeah, so Munio-IT, or just Google me and you'll find all my details.
Excellent. Thank you again, Jason. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.